in the travel, here we go. Got that AI on the low, taking flights to and fro, booking trips in a snap with a simple chatbot flow. AI, revolutionizing how we roll. Gonna hop on a plane.
Welcome to another episode of the Everything AI in Travel podcast, where we hear from the makers, shapers, and buyers of AI technology in the travel space. Here's your host, Tony Khan.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Everything AI in Travel podcast, now in the top 3 of travel technology podcasts on the Apple network and rising up the ranks on the Spotify network. So thanks to all those who listen in, and especially to those who give me a review at the end of the podcast on whatever system you happen to be listening on. It is much appreciated, and thank you for listening in. Now, normally on this show, we get a lot of startups in here, being an AI-focused show, and that's where a lot of the activity is. But today we're going to change gears a little bit and talk to someone from a business that's been around a long time, helping their customers out in terms of technology supply. Today we've got with us Jason Bryant, who is the Vice President of Strategy for Consumer Applications at Oracle. And in this role, he leads strategy development across a diverse portfolio of products and services, with a focus on shaping long-term growth, driving AI innovation, we love that, and ensuring that consumer-facing applications align with both customer needs and market trends, which all sounds perfect for this show. Welcome to the show, Jason.
Thank you. Great to be here, Tony. Thanks for having me.
Brilliant. Now, I do want to get into all the Oracle stuff in a moment, but I've had a look through your bio, and the thing that jumped out to me was that you were the founder and CEO of a company called Nor1, and I think a lot of my guests will know that company and potentially already know you from that business. So I'd love to hear a little bit about the Nor1 journey, like why did you start that business, and then how that business went, and then maybe we can talk about how you've ended up at Oracle.
Sure. So prior to Oracle, I've been a startup entrepreneur my entire professional career, and started Nor1. Now it's embarrassing to say, but over 20 years ago. And it started with a fairly simple premise, which was just this recognition that, and when we started, it wasn't just hotels, but it was basically the travel industry has a lot of perishable inventory, right? Whether it's hotel rooms or rental cars or seats on an airplane. And just the recognition that a lot of times those go unused. And typically part of that, I guess the lack of adoption or usage is because the price point is very high. Let's say for business class or for a suite or for a higher end vehicle. And just being like all of us, a consumer, thought I wouldn't be willing to pay the top end price, but I'd pay something for that. And that was the start, was the beginning of that. Now, ultimately, we did get, let's say, patents on what sounds like a pretty simple process, but patents around like how that buying process works. And we did decide to focus exclusively on hospitality, and which is obviously where I've spent now the last 20 years of trying to find solutions to help hoteliers generate more revenue and greater guest satisfaction on every single transaction.
Perfect. It's worked out pretty well for you so far. What was your connection to the hospitality industry before starting that? Like, how did you come across this insight or know that this might be a problem in the industry? Had you been connected to the hospitality industry and stuff you'd done before?
Yeah, the thing is, prior to Nor1, I had a consulting company that focused on, it was focused on travel. It wasn't solely hospitality. It was focused on high volume reservation systems and basically underlying software for that. And very specifically, I had set up offshore development facilities in India. And that was early 2000s, late 1990s. And that, I would say that's where I got my first taste for travel, hospitality. And then once I had sold that business, and I always wanted to do something consumer focused. And I was trying to find something that was a blend between my travel knowledge, contact network, but then also a focus on consumers. And so Nor1 was a good cross between those different experiences and desires.
For sure. And obviously it had a fantastic conclusion in that you ended up selling the business to Oracle and are still with Oracle, obviously, because we're having this conversation. What was that process like? Was the aim always to build something to exit, or it was serendipitous in the way that it came about? How did the exit happen?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, I would say that with Nor1 at least, because we sought, I would say, professional investors almost from the very beginning. And so yeah, an exit was absolutely was the objective. Typically for most startups, it's some sort of acquisition. Typically, you usually go down this path of either it's a we'll call it a financial acquisition, like a private equity company acquires you, or a strategic, which is what would happen with Nora One. We did very much, I was fortunate to have a very, I would say, mature and experienced board of directors. And so almost from the very beginning, a fair amount of our attention was paid to who could possibly acquire us, who do we want to acquire us, and then we built the business not solely to that, but yeah, focusing on like that, like kind of the reality of that. Oracle Hospitality was always at the very top of that list. And yeah, and then it was just, I was fortunate at the time. There was an individual named Alex Alt, and he and I had known each other for quite some time. And yeah, and then like I said, I guess the rest is history.
Brilliant, brilliant. And it's obviously worked out very well. And you're still there. How did the cultural shift of merging a startup into a larger company go for the business?
Yeah, I think so. For the business, it went well. I know that Oracle looks very favorably on the acquisition and the outcome. And for the team, I feel like it was very favorable. Oracle has been, for me, I can speak for myself, has been a good company to work for. Yeah, it's true, right? You go from, like I said, I have made unilateral decisions my entire life as a, like I said, as the whatever senior executive of whatever entity, whatever company I had started, in all the classic kind of things that you would think are different as far as the speed of decisions and how fast you can, whatever you can, how nimble are you and how agile, all those things. Yeah, they're true. I think the appreciation though that I got was why. Why are they true? And it took me probably the first year of just biting my tongue a lot until I actually understood that, like, obvious dimension is that a Fortune 500 global technology company, their risk profile is very different than a startup. And I would say it's less about taking risk. It's just like what dimensions of the business are they particularly concerned about risk? And when you get acquired by a company who largely is known for building the most secure databases in the world, building systems for the CIA and for departments of defense and governments to move into that environment, their expectation as soon as they acquired Nor1 was that we, this small, very little company, would adhere to the exact same standards. And so what you find out is that there's reasons why Oracle does what they do. And yeah, it's a big public company. And so there's all those things that you wish you could move faster, but like now I at least appreciate like why it is that way. And yeah, but that's like I
Beautiful.
said, that was our experience so far.
Yeah, and from my understanding, the Nor One product has been subsumed into the Oracle product now, and so it's still already or exists in the way they did, and has been enhanced and has other features and pieces around it for the hospitality market. So that's great that kind of that product has lived on. But I want to talk about AI now, and like obviously this podcast is now nearly 2 years old, and everyone's talking about AI now. But I'm sure you had a very strong appreciation of AI, and we're probably using a lot of AI in its previous format in your build with Nor One. What's that AI journey been like specifically?
Yeah, I feel fortunate and blessed actually early on at Nor1. I would say that a predicate to us founding the company was just this belief that there must be a way to leverage, I would say, the very resolute data set that hospitality has to make better decisions. It was that simple, right? Now, we didn't know how exactly. And again, 20 years ago, certainly there weren't classes or degrees in data science, and even the terms hadn't yet been coined. And so early on, when we were first raising money, we had to build our own tools. We were hiring PhD statisticians and mathematicians. And so we're lucky in Silicon Valley to have a fair amount of that, I would say, that expertise. But yeah, early on, it was, like I said, it was a lot of trial and error. And like the things that I think for me, as I've witnessed the progression of the AI, one of the bigger differences is just how comparatively, how easy it is now. The tools and the advance in not only precision and the quality of the tools, but also just who they're accessible to. When we were early on building things, I mean, we needed actual PhDs and data engineers working hand in hand in this constant iteration loop, right, to create something. And I remember if we wanted to change, let's say, an element that we were using as part of, say, our training data. You're talking months. You're talking months of time in order to recalibrate the system and to refactor things that we can do in hours now with the variety of platforms. And actually, that's, by the way, that's why one of the reasons I'm still at Oracle, there's no better, like there is no better place as far as like the underlying technology in order to actually build quality AI than what Oracle provides. And but that, yeah, that, like I said, I've been lucky to see a pretty significant progression in both the tools, the quality of the competency of the team, right? And then now we're getting to see it actually come full circle into the actual execution and create real value across the enterprise. That's
Yeah,
pretty
for
exciting to
sure.
me.
For sure. So post late 2022, everything's changed, particularly with generative AI and its ability to do things that us as mere more just couldn't do. I know from my own experience, I've got my own startup, work with a great guy called Adrian Villabruna, and we've built our entire business using AI, and neither of us are coders, right? It's pretty incredible what is possible these days, and it's so fantastic. Now, when you're a bit of a thought leader online, and I highly recommend people go out and seek out the stuff that you put out online because it is really fascinating. And you concentrate a lot on personalization. It seems to be I guess, the major opportunity or potentially the major opportunity that you're trying to bring to life for your customers. And it's all around getting your data in order and making sure that it's usable to make those decisions. Like, how are you working with your customers who maybe have kind of fragmented data sets or their ducks not really in a row when it comes to data? Like, how do you bring a new customer in and make all that work and happen for them?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think that's where Oracle, if you think about and get back to this progression of AI, right? And where Oracle is a leader is AI is not just this feature, right? It's not just this tool that we're going to embed into our products. Oracle has constructed an entire AI ecosystem, right? Like an AI operating system. And there's a lot of things that Oracle has been building, I would say, for the last 10 years that have been the foundations to what we're enjoying today. And when we think about personalization, so back to your question, when we think about personalization, yes, there's what's the right, that's what Nor1 did, right? That's what Oracle bought is like, what's the right thing to offer this guest at this moment in time and what should we charge for it? Yeah, that's true. And that has a really specific calculus around how to do that. But to do it at scale and to do it across like an entire segment of the industry, you really have to look down into the lower, like the foundation of the system, and you get into the data structures, right? And it's one of the reasons why, at Oracle, you'll hear, sorry, this sounds salesy, but I mean, this is the truth, right? We talk about the unified platform or unified data platforms. Like those fundamentals are absolutely necessary if you think that you're going to be able to real time make decisions, let's say for a guest across a reservation life cycle, right? Like you want to engage the guest right at booking and then using the information you learn there to continue to engage the guest, whether it's a confirmation email or pre-arrival email, right on property, right at check-in. That in order to do that, which looks like that's just a personalization exercise. Yeah, but the reality is, in order to do that, it takes quite the underpinnings of the data structures are really important. And all of that I said, all the email systems and all the PMS, all those components, they have to sit on that data platform. So that's what we usually think about. So back to like when we engage a client, yeah, the first thing is like that's why it's important. Like I think you started off and mentioned that now like the Nor1 tools, they're all embedded natively into Opera Cloud. And so that way, for any of our clients, if they use that PMS, they use Opera Cloud, they natively get the Nor1 facility because it's all built on that same platform, and we enjoy that same access to the single source of data truth there, and can execute real time.
Hey everyone, it's Tony here, and we'll be back with our guest in a short moment. But I just wanted to let you know that this podcast is brought to you by Viderio. Viderio is a platform that helps travel companies measure the true business impact and outcomes of their content creator work, not just vanity metrics. If you want to see how brands like Intrepid and Carpe Diem, or agencies like MMGY or GTI, or even destinations like Palau are gaining an advantage in creator marketing, then we welcome you to join us on this journey with Viderio. At the moment, we've got a special offer for anybody who would like to try the Viderio platform. You can do so absolutely for free. We've got a case study that you can view to see exactly how the platform works. You can find it here in the show notes, and in there you'll also find how to sign up for the free trial. We'd love to see you and help you with your own social media journey, particularly on the content creator and influencer front. We look forward to working with you soon. Now back to the show. Can I get a feel for kind of what an Oracle client looks like, or if there is a typical one? And the reason I ask is because a lot of people out there might be listening and going, Oracle's that huge, big company. Like they wouldn't want to have anything to do with me if I've got my 3 hotels or whatever. Maybe that's not the truth. I'd love to get your feel of kind of what the
Yeah.
Oracle breadth of client looks like.
Yeah, I have to say that even in the like my tenure here, like short time here, 4 or 5 years, and again with the advent and the adoption of Oracle Cloud, the our I would say our profile, our client profile has dramatically expanded. And so if we dimensioned it a couple different ways, one, if we just dimension it by size, we Oracle serves the global hotel chains, so big hotel chains that have hotels around the world, equally with serving regional hotel chains as well as independents. And we have products and approaches that actually are that would cater to each of those different groups. But then if we think about the types of hotels within those, whether it's luxury resort, economy, all these different segmentations, I think SDR has these 6 different segmentations. Similarly, if you looked at how our business is actually constructed, I think this surprises a lot of people today that they think of Oracle being like only for the top really big hotels. Yeah, that's not actually, if we look, actually, we look at where the population of our hotels and I would say the volume of hotels, it's pretty evenly spread. So yeah, the product has been built to be flexible so that it can be used in many different specific, whatever, let's say configurations. And yeah.
Perfect, perfect. And for those bigger guys, particularly like the larger chains, a lot of this personalization and upsells and that kind of stuff is somewhat connected to loyalty. Like, how does Oracle and the platform work in with the loyalty programs of those bigger?
Yeah, so a couple different ways. So one is, I would say a couple different fundamental ways. So number one is loyalty is a signal, right? So as we are provided with the loyalty, say the loyalty status of a given guest, that's important for us to understand back to personalization, right? That's important for us to understand that. And then in addition, I would say the way our decisions platform is built, you have the true machine learning AI dimension where like it's predicting what's the right product and the right price. But layered on top of that is a business rules and conditions engine. And the way that I think of that is that's where you apply strategy, right? So that's how each individual property or at the enterprise level, a given brand might apply a specific loyalty strategy. And so that the types of things would happen there is like we may, for a particular, say for the highest level Hilton guests, we may have a different service delivery mechanism that we are enforcing, right, in our logic, right? So we may know, yep, if we want to generate the most revenue, this would be the upsell we'd give them, and this is the price. But then we would take a look at the strategy, and it's, oh, we're gonna actually solve for. We prefer to put them in this, like with a particular strategic loyalty offer. So that's a couple of ways that we're managing loyalty and valuing loyalty for a big brand.
Yeah, for sure. And like when the clients come to you, are they brought to you via like a consultancy agency, or you have people just jump on the website and sign up online? Again, just my imagination, and it's probably completely wrong, but I just love to get your clarification on it. Is like it's this big company, and I don't know how I would engage with it necessarily. So is it that people come through like a consultancy pathway, or they just sign up?
Yeah, we have the largest hospitality technology provider with PMS. It's going to be a little bit of, so yes, yes, those are the ways. Clearly, large brands with really long sales cycles, that's enterprise level sales, right? Yes, that could come to us through a consultancy. Of course, we have a large professional business development and sales team, sales engineering teams that are constantly both pursuing new business, but also making sure that we're keeping our existing clients happy. So probably the strongest like sales mechanism is just referral, right? Because and again, my own experience here at Aura, I've seen it happen many times where there's a fair amount of cross-pollination of executive teams over
Mm,
time. And once we have success with one particular executive and we've done right by them, of course they have confidence to advocate for our being used in, let's say, their new environment. And like I said, that happens quite a bit. But yeah, it's going to be like I said, as large as we are, there's a wide variety of ways that business comes into us.
perfect.
But like I said, we look for that's one of our big, I would say, metrics, referenceable clients. And so the benefit is what I just noted, is that once they're referenceable, then they themselves will hopefully lead business to us.
For sure. And the PMS is obviously the main hospitality product, but do you touch other sectors of the travel or hospitality industry like cruise or air or tour operations or anything like that? Do you have products for those people?
So we definitely have a cruise product. It may be simplistic, but a cruise ship is a giant floating hotel. Maybe more like a casino, but it is definitely it definitely has the fundamental dimensions of a hotel. And we have a product there. Let's think, you said air, we do not, again, so we do not it's not as applicable like the way our reservation inventory works. So with airlines, but primarily hospitality. And then inside of hospitality, then you start to get into like the evolution of hospitality into, let's say, like campgrounds and like a whole host of different type of apartments and all those kind and extended stay. We do have specific products that are directly focused on like those types of new emerging types of hospitality organizations.
Perfect, perfect. Now, switching gears again, I'd love to just get your thoughts on where we're going with AI in hospitality, and may or may not have anything to do with Oracle, but just love to get your ideas or thoughts on where we're at right now and what 2026 might look like in terms of development in AI and our industry.
So speaking for Oracle and for I would say our AI strategy or our AI perspective, I think is consistent with what I would also echo across not just hospitality, but also across almost any industry. And it's fundamentally that like the way I think about it is there was a lot of hype and a lot of, I'll call it noise over the last 3 years. And understandably, as you noted, the stuff that Gen AI is doing, we've never seen before. And yep, that's pretty cool. And even a lot of the use cases were the way I would frame them, were let's call them, they were feel good use cases, right? So they were highlighting the potential. They weren't necessarily solving the biggest problem, and maybe at the end of the day, creating the most value, or were they actually you were able to really pull that off at scale? They were just showing potential. My belief is that where we're headed in 2026 is I would say the focus on orchestration. It's basic. That's awesome that we have these tools. No longer do we, in my opinion, no longer do we need to actually continue to wait for the next iteration of the next best model. You know what I mean? Like this constant every week, there's this ongoing media battle between who has the best model of all the frontier models. That's going to continue. But for us, let's say practitioners, the models are good enough, right? What we need to do though is we need to actually put them to work. Like we need to start solving real problems and creating real value with those models. And I would say the focus needs to be, like I said, on orchestration. Yes, how do we take that model, but then how do you solve for all the messy parts, right, of execution, of connecting data systems? Back to why I said like a universal data platform is so important. How do we actually make sure that we're actually focused on solving real problems, right? Real problems that are real pain points that are, again, by solving them, hopefully what we're doing is we're creating some quantifiable improvement, some quantifiable metric around the value that we're creating.
Yeah.
And so that's where I know that's where we're focused. We're focused on, it's awesome that we continue, and that's a great thing at Oracle. Like we have lots of the technical teams building out like these models and how best to use them. But it's us in the industry that are actually taking them and applying them to get real results and create real workflows. And that's actually, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot more there with risk of execution to pull that off the right way. That's where I see AI going.
100%, and I'm very much in agreement with your analysis there. I have a newsletter that's the partner to this podcast. Get to do all the frontier new launch of whatever model that they're putting out, which is they basically take it in turns week by week. So there's always something to talk about, which is
Yeah.
interesting. And it was very exciting in the beginning because maybe there was a larger incremental increase in the ability of what the models could do as those models got rolled out in the early days. But now it's a little bit of extra source for something, and you'll see a couple of people on Twitter that'll do something that's very, as you say, it'll look really cool, but at scale, does it really work? And I guess my own experience has been across this journey is that the model will get you 80% there, right? It can do 80%, it can put up some infrastructure for you. It's great at scaffolding and it will give you a bit of a result. But like that extra 20%, you got to get your humans in there. You got to get them tweaking and analyzing and really modeling to the problem, right? Because it doesn't work otherwise. And I think that a lot of people have given it a go and got themselves to 80% there and then thought, actually, this isn't as good as I thought it was going to be, and not put the effort in. And so,
I think too, we all saw those. I think a lot of us saw at least those. There's like a statistic from MIT I don't know, in the last 3 months, right? 95% of all Gen AI pilots are failing. And when you dig down into the research, it's basically that they're not actually generating P&L improvement.
Hmm.
And then when you dig down further, it's not because of the technology, right? The failure is not because the math didn't work or the AI didn't work. It just wasn't applied correctly, right? It just wasn't applied in a fashion to actually create success. And yeah, that to me, that's a leading stat pointing towards the need to just focus on orchestration.
Yeah, for sure. There's this gap in our mind between what's possible, because we can see what's possible, but actually tying all the bits together to make it actually work. And I've had great success with clients doing very simple jobs.
Yeah.
Okay, we have this thing and we want it to do this other thing, and that's it, and it'll do that same thing every time. Okay, we can build you a little bot that will do that for you, and it will never fail, and it always works. But when it gets more complicated than that, things go awry pretty quickly. And then, as you say, when people change the models, like things change, right? And all of a sudden, the answers that were correct are no longer correct anymore. So it is a little bit confusing.
Only I had another extension there. I think one of the first steps, and I would say a common mistake that I've made is we have a problem, so we're really clear on that. So that's good. That's a good starting point. A lot of people don't even start there, but yep, there's something worthwhile fixing. And if we fix it, we're going to get this definable, quantifiable like benefit. But then what you do is you don't take that deep breath moment in the very beginning and you go down a path of using the AI to do nothing more than to replicate a manual system. And that's one of the biggest mistakes you can make from the beginning. It's like you want to take that deep breath in the beginning and rethink the solution, rethink the answer is what you're trying to get, right? You want to actually get this outcome, how you get there, especially when we're talking about workflows, especially when you're talking about like manual components. There's reasons a lot of those workflows were manual. It just wasn't possible to do the kinds of things that we can do now. And yeah, and I think that'd be the other piece of advice is like really before you just try to slap some AI on there, and especially if you're going to recreate an existing manual process, you're going to get all the weaknesses and all the issues that manual system had too. Probably a good time to rethink that if you can.
Yeah, for sure. And I think where we've seen at least that scale results, it's been where there is people have rethought the solution but the commonality of the problem has been at scale. So we've seen it in coding. Okay, to build up a certain infrastructure is pretty much it's written out there, it's quantified. You can identify it and can make that happen for you to get yourself up to your 60, 70%. Or in customer service, the same questions get asked most of the time by most of the people. So if you can get the AI to answer those questions for you and then leave the humans to answer the 20% trickier ones and feed that back into the AI, then you'll get to a result.
I think what you're saying too is there is a natural, we've seen this too, right? Like there's going to be a natural progression of, let's say, resolution, like of actually getting more and more accurate. That's a normal process. Because I think another thing that happens is a lot of times people give up way too soon. Like they expect the thing to be perfect in its first few iterations. And that's just not the way, again, I've done this 20 years. It's just not the way any AI system, no matter how sophisticated or unsophisticated it is going to work. You have to have some patience around it. And a lot of times it is ironing out the human part. Like it's ironing out like those aspects that are not obvious in the very beginning. But yeah.
Yeah, and I think this is why people have started internally rather than consumer facing, right? Because internally we can hack some of those imperfections, but nobody wants to put those imperfections out in front of their consumers, which is a little bit more difficult. And look at the way Airbnb, for example, have gone about it by not jumping in with both feet and doing things that they can control before getting out something that's really big and consumer facing, where they were exposed to a lot more risk. And I can definitely kind of understand their ways of thinking around that. Jason, this has been amazing. We're out of time. Thank you so much for jumping on a call and spending some time with us and letting us know all about what's happening at Oracle. We really appreciate it.
No, you're very welcome, Tony. Anytime.
Brilliant. That's it for another show. Thanks everyone for listening in. I hope it's been a good one. If you want to learn more, I'll put in the show notes how to get in touch with Oracle and you can pick up the conversation with them. Jason, thanks again for the call and look forward to seeing everyone on the next one. See you.
Take care.
Bye.
AI, in the travel bin we go. Got that AI on the low, taking flights to and fro, booking trips in a snap with a simple chat bot.